Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sisterhood of SWEAT. I have a super special guest today, Laurie Shemek. Laurie Shemek is a Ph.D. She is a leading fat cell researcher, health expert, weight loss expert, keynote speaker, and recognized authority on inflammation and its role in weight loss, preventing disease, and optimizing health. Dr. Shemek is the best-selling author of How to Fight FATflammation, HarperCollins, and the best-selling author of Fire Up Your Fat Burn. Dr. Laurie Shemek, a health expert for the ABC TV show Good Morning Texas, has been featured on NBC, The Doctors TV, CNN, NPR, and Fox News, and in Dr. Oz's Good Life magazine, Health, Shape, Women's Day, Prevention, Red Book, Ladies' Own Journal, the Huffington Post, and numerous others. Dr. Shemek is known as the Inflammation Terminator. She has made it her mission to help clients lose weight and educate the public on the toxic effects of certain foods and lifestyle choices, and how they create inflammation in the body, resulting in weight gain and poor health. The Huffington Post has recognized Dr. Shemek twice as one of the top health and fitness experts, alongside such names as Dr. Oz and the author of Eat This, Not That. And the Huffington Post has also recognized her as one of the top diet and nutrition experts. Dr. Shemek holds a doctorate in psychology. She is a certified nutritional consultant and a certified life coach. Welcome, Dr. Laurie, to the show.
Thank you, Linda. It's so great to be here with you. Finally.
Yeah, finally we're together and we can get connected and talk all about your latest book, FATflammation. I'm so excited to dive into this because I think it's a really great topic. People don't realize how much when they're gaining weight, how much that could be attributed to inflammation, right?
Right, exactly, yes. My book, How to Fight FATflammation, addresses the very core underlying cause of weight gain and has specific foods that shrink fat cells and lots of yummy menu plans and recipes and all sorts of things. So it's really a no-brainer when it comes to really losing weight and creating optimal health. So we all know that inflammation is the low-level inflammation, or maybe some people don't, is the core cause of most illness, disease, faster aging, and weight gain. So it's, very important topic.
So what is the underlying cause then, the core cause of most weight gain?
So the underlying core cause is fat cell inflammation, and this is due to the accumulation of not just fat within the fat cell, but glucose, for example, or compounds like arachidonic acid that get stored within the fat cell. And the fat cell feels as if it's sick, okay? It acts as if it's infected because it's an immune response. And when this happens, this slow drip, if you will, of inflammatory molecules from the cell slows down the metabolism, and of course then we end up gaining weight. And so the more fat you pack into that cell and other compounds, the more inflammation is produced. And unfortunately, it is a vicious cycle because it's a 24-hour thing. We used to think that our fat was just this jiggly mass. It just kind of sat there and didn't look so pretty, right? Yeah. Well, we all know that's not true anymore. So our fat is our largest endocrine organ, and it's actively sending out messages to either store more fat or release stored fat the way a healthy fat cell is supposed to do. And so when you eat the right foods, you are reversing inflammation within the fat cell, like the spice turmeric, for example. will shrink belly fat cells. Okay, blueberries are another one. Blueberries shrink fat cells. Omega-3 is something extremely important in terms of reducing fat cell inflammation and inflammation throughout the body in terms of omega-3. Very important. But with the types of foods that most people are eating, like the standard American diet, for one, lots of sugar and carbohydrates and junk food, sodas. This type of diet actually promotes inflammation throughout the body, and the end result is that we gain weight due to the low level inflammation. So we have acute inflammation, which isn't so cute because it hurts and we know it's there and it's a necessary part of our immune system. So when you cut your finger, an enormous amount of inflammatory molecules are released, right? But it all heals up, it all goes away. But with now the other type is silent inflammation. And the thing about silent inflammation, as I mentioned, it's the core cause of most illness, disease, faster aging, and weight gain. It has a slow release of inflammatory molecules, just a little bit. And you would think, well, this is better, right? Because it's just a little bit. And unfortunately, it's not, because it's like having a sore on the inside of your body that never heals. And so it never goes away like acute inflammation does. That cut on your finger gets healed. That terrible cold you have, that's acute inflammation. You heal. But with low-level inflammation or silent inflammation, you don't. And fat cell inflammation is a silent inflammation of the fat cell. And again, this is having a metabolic effect that's slowing down the metabolism, but you're also increasing insulin resistance and other metabolic diseases.
What are the indicators that you have fatflammation? What are some, like, since it's silent, how do we know?
Well, essentially, if you're gaining weight, right? So the more weight you gain, the more inflammation you're producing from the fat cell. And research has shown that those who have inflammatory molecules, high markers for inflammation, they can predict those people will gain weight in the future. And so if you are, inflamed for any reason, if you're eating an inflammatory diet, for example, chances are you are going to have weight gain in your future. So that's the big one. And, if you are hungry all the time, if you're eating a poor diet, the blood test says that your CRP, which is one of the tests for inflammation, say that you have a high level of inflammation going on in there, then you know that you need to do something about what you're doing in your life in terms of your diet and your exercise, your fitness.
What are some ways that we can decrease inflammation naturally, like through our diet?
So some ways that you can decrease inflammation is to stop eating sugar. Sugar is the #1 inflammatory food, if you can call it a food. It really isn't, but
Fake food.
Eliminating sugar from your diet is the best thing you can do. Eliminating white flour products. Grains tend to be problematic for a lot of people. They don't realize it, though, because we've all been told how healthy they are. And simply reducing excess carbohydrate intake. People do not realize how much of a carbohydrate intake they have. And if you simply pay attention to it simply for one day, you will see that it's usually a lot, okay? We're talking up to 300 grams of carbohydrates a day.
Okay.
Which is a lot.
So what are some of the foods then that they should eat or not eat?
Yeah, so I highly recommend you eat a lot of vegetables, okay? Veggies are so important, like leafy greens. Make half your plate veggies, because veggies contain antioxidants and polyphenols. This really increases your mitochondria, which are the little engines in your cells, and the healthier your mitochondria, the healthier you are, the leaner you are. So inflammation and poor mitochondrial health go hand in hand. Okay, so when you eat a diet that's packed full of antioxidants and other types of nutrients, phytonutrients, you are absolutely reversing cell inflammation. You need omega-3 fat, so any source of omega-3 fat, ideally, if you can get it from, such as if you're a vegetarian, algae-derived DHA supplement is great. Algal is another one that's excellent for vegetarians and non-vegetarians. Omega-3 from fish oil is very therapeutic in terms of reversing fat cell inflammation. It, I would say, is the most important nutrient in terms of reversing inflammation in the body when it comes to weight loss, okay? It's like holding, when you take it, it's like holding a cloth under the faucet, saturating that cloth with water. That same thing is going on within the fat cell. Okay, the fat cell is being saturated with this important omega-3, and it is then creating a healthy fat cell that releases years of stored fat.
So I know a lot of people grew up with the whole low fat, you know, high carb, you know, like high protein, you know. So how do we dispel the myth about eating fat makes you fat? Can you help us there?
That's a great question. You know, it's so interesting because I was in part of that low fat myth. You know, I call it the calorie myth and the low fat myth. Okay. So, low fat is a myth because and no calories, the calorie myth is essentially old research. Okay. This is based on research from the 50s. All right. So we now know that a calorie is not a calorie. We know that 100 calories of broccoli is metabolized vastly different than 100 calorie snack pack. Okay, one of those, you know, you can look at diet soda, for example, 0 calories, all right, but it has a metabolic effect that causes weight gain, fat storage.
Okay, yeah, because your body still thinks that that's sugar, even though it isn't.
Right, exactly. So you can see how the body's responds differently to different foods. And to say that a calorie is just old science at this point. We have so much more research now that shows differently. And, you know, so you want to get really healthy foods in, healthy fats, that if you have a diet that's high in fat, lower in carbs, and adequate protein, you are doing your body a world of good, okay? The healthy fat is very important in terms of triggering the hormones that are going to help you lose weight. You know, the hormone leptin that tells the brain you've had enough. It stops the nuisance hormone ghrelin that makes you feel hungry when you want to eat. So it's really, healthy fat is great. Sources of healthy fat are avocados, nuts, and seeds. You want avocado oil, for example, macadamia nut oil, olive oil. But there are oils you do want to skip. There are fats in your diet. Many people are ingesting an enormous amount of omega-6 fat in their diet. And the reason this is an important point is because we have omega-3 and omega-6. Omega-3, they need to be roughly in balance, okay? Right now, it's 28 to 1 in favor of omega-6 fat. Omega-3 can't do its job of reversing fat cell inflammation if there's too much omega-6 or cellular inflammation. And so we want to add in as much omega-3, as many omega-3 sources that we can in our diet to bring that level back to normal, okay? And so, unfortunately, omega-3 can't, as I mentioned, do its job adequately of reversing inflammation in the body if we have too much going on. So sources that a lot of people use in omega-6 cooking oil, for example, is corn oil or soy oil, vegetable oil, canola oil.
Yeah, canola. Some people are fooled by that one.
Right. There's research that just came out showing that canola oil is maybe connected with Alzheimer's disease, memory loss, and more. So it's a highly processed oil, high in omega-6. A lot of people think is healthy. And so, as I mentioned early on, the compound arachidonic acid is stored within that fat cell. And that means when you're ingesting too many omega-6 fats, then that occurs and you gain weight. And it's not just getting you fat, it's making you fat and sick, okay? So we want to get rid of that excess amount of omega-6. And the other sources of omega-6 include the grain corn, as I mentioned, which they feed a lot of to chicken and cattle, okay? So you want to make sure that you use grass-fed beef. You want to make sure that you use wild fish, because farm-raised fish are very high in omega-6 fat. And you want to use pastured chicken that free range. They're allowed to hunt for bugs and not fed a lot of soy and grain, okay, like corn. So those are the things you can do there. And then stop the ingestion of products that are processed. Food manufacturers like to use ingredients that are very high in omega-6 fat. And many people don't realize that these products are high in omega-6 fat. And so that's part of what's happening within the body, the excess ingestion of it.
Okay, so now what do you think? I have, as a fitness competitor, I use MCT oil a lot to kind of help with energy.
Right.
And also I love Brain Octane by Bulletproof brand, but
yeah, I just had a bulletproof collagen bar with the MCT oil, and I use myself the Brain Octane in my salad. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I feel like I notice not only does it give me more energy, but when I'm using the MCT and the Brain Octane, oh my gosh, that really gives me energy. But when I'm using it, I feel like I start to lose weight. More so.
Well, it allows your fat to use the fat stores for fuel. So it's an excellent oil in terms of, and you know, the Brain Octane from Bulletproof, in my opinion, is the best. I have no affiliation with them.
I don't either. Yeah. I don't have an affiliation. I just love the Brain Octane.
Oh, no. And you should try the Dave Asprey will love me for this. But the collagen protein bars are excellent because they have the MCT in there and the collagen, which, you know, helps with a lot. You know, protein is excellent for you, but it's a very healthy source, 7 grams of fiber, and they are delicious, I'm telling you. Very filling.
Yeah. I'm not a big bar fan. I usually make my own. In fact, in my book, The Sisterhood of SWEAT, we make our own protein bars so that it's from healthy ingredients that we can depend upon. But I do like his bars, I will have to say, and I'm picky.
Yeah, so they're excellent, fill you up, and low in sugar, 2 grams of sugar, which is excellent for a bar. So yeah.
I mean, that's there again. It's hard to find bars out there that don't have something you don't want in it. So they come really close to being. You know, you can't. It's hard to find perfect if you're going to have it on a shelf for a while, but
exactly.
It's pretty close.
Good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you have the bar like as a snack or when you're out and traveling, or what is
all of the above. I have it, you know, if I want something that tastes really delicious, I just go to, it tastes, they're like, you know, they have one vanilla shortbread, another one is chocolate fudge, but they're like something I remember from childhood where it just melts in your mouth. I don't even remember what it was, but you know, so good.
I had my first one at the Summit of Greatness. They were giving out all the bulletproof, the coffee with the grass-fed butter and the bars and then the fat water.
The fat water. I haven't tried that yet. Is that good?
That's really good. Yeah. That's totally worth having. So Yeah, I really like all
So
that.
that MCT oil is a great source of fat. So I really highly recommend that as another one. And, along with, as I mentioned, the others, macadamia nut oil, avocado oil, coconut oil contains some MCT oil in it, and, um, and olive oil. But you don't want to heat olive oil too high because it really
Lose their
changes it
properties.
to an inflammatory fat. In fact, really all fat that's heated to a high heat becomes a bit inflammatory. So you
Okay.
want to really be careful.
What
What
about MCT? You're not supposed to
you
heat
don't want to
that,
put,
are you?
no,
I didn't think so.
not even light. You don't want it near heat at all.
Yeah.
Now, there are some people that will pour it on something hot, but I still wouldn't do that because it's so sensitive. Olive oil is sensitive. The highest heat I would use it and recommend using it is at a low saute. But coconut oil, macadamia nut oil, avocado oil can all take a high heat without too much damage.
Okay. I like making salad dressing with the MCT oil. I found a raspberry flavored one, and
Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I use it. I just pour it straight on my salad.
Oh yeah, just pour it straight on.
Mm.
I'll put like a little apple cider vinegar, a little raspberry MCT oil,
That is
and
wonderful.
sometimes a little spicy mustard to make my dressing.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Yeah, what a
Makes a
great,
really good dressing.
yeah.
So what are some foods? I know like in your book you talk a lot about foods that fool us that we really should not be eating, where we think, oh, this is totally healthy, this is totally good for me, but it's totally not.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one, the 100 calorie snack packs, okay, people think, again, the calorie focus. The first thing they do is they pick up a package, they turn it over. If they're reading labels, they'll look at how many calories it is or how many fat grams it has, right? So you really, I don't know. I just think that it's really important that people pay attention to look at labels, really just begin to start looking, get in the habit of it. It will serve you for life. So one is whole wheat bread, okay?
Yeah.
Many people do not realize that the majority of whole wheat breads out there can raise your blood sugar as much as 2 tablespoons of sugar, okay? And that's staggering because people believe that they're doing themselves and their family a favor in terms of health by buying the whole wheat bread, right? They've been
Right.
told this is what you're supposed to
Or
do.
anything wheat. They think wheat pasta,
Right.
wheat bread, wheat
Whole wheat, right?
tortillas. Yeah.
And so let's talk about whole wheat pasta. The whole wheat pasta is pulverized to such a fine um, texture that it is rapidly it's rapidly emitted into the bloodstream as sugar, okay, as opposed to not as if you use, for example, zucchini noodles. And I know this is like a far stretch for a lot of people, but that has fiber, it's a vegetable, and there's a slow release of sugar into the bloodstream, okay? So be very careful of pastas. I don't eat pasta because one serving, which is like that big, is 45 grams of carbohydrates, all right? That's a lot in one
In
sitting.
one tiny little serving, at least
Right.
in a sweet potato, I get the whole potato.
Right, exactly. So with the pasta, it's, released into the bloodstream very quickly, and people they think it's whole grain, so it's not, but it has a different effect. And another one is yogurt. Most of the yogurts out there are packed full of sugar, 25 grams of sugar, which, is like a candy bar, okay? So what I
Mm-hmm.
do, and it tastes
That's why
delicious.
they want. That's why you crave it.
Right, there you go, exactly.
That and the
Um,
dopamine.
yeah, is I defrost a bag of berries in the refrigerator, and then I'll pour the juice into the plain yogurt, whole fat yogurt, okay, not non-fat yogurt, and some of the berries, mix it up, and you can't even tell. And if you want it sweeter, you
Do
can
you
add,
make your own yogurt, or where do you
yeah,
get your?
I,
Oh,
I buy it, yeah.
my mom makes her own.
Does she? That's
Mhm.
that's fantastic. Yeah. I'd love to try that.
Oh, it's amazing.
Is it?
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, I grew up on that, so it's hard for me to buy any store
Oh,
brand.
imagine. Yeah.
But if I was to buy one, it would be Ziggy's. That's probably my
Yeah. I
favorite.
I think it's important to buy whole fat yogurt, and also grass fed. Okay, so you
Yeah.
want to make sure you're getting um, healthy products when you buy them.
Yeah, she would go straight to the farm to get, I mean, it was like, I want to feel like the milk wasn't pasteurized. It was like, you know, the real McCoy from from
That's
grass-fed
amazing.
cows.
You
And
don't hear that very often.
no. Well, I grew up with my dad. His name was Herb, but we called him Dr. Herb
Yeah.
because because he had, supplements and, and he would make his concoctions,
Oh my
that
goodness.
had all these, sometimes he would stick his tongue out at me and it would be green
Yeah.
or red, so I grew up with a father and a mother that were very
Great.
much in tune with how important it is to take care of your health.
Wow, that's not very, you don't hear that very often. I grew up on Fruit Loops, Captain Crunch, Cocoa Puffs,
Well,
and
they had a change in their 40s, maybe like everyone, but because you start realizing that you're maybe you better take care of yourself.
right,
Because
yeah,
when I was younger, it was the Hostess pies
yeah.
and things that you really need to stay, lots and lots of sugar.
It's
Yeah.
good that you made the decision to do that because many people, no matter what their age, are still eating that way, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so I talked about the importance of mitochondria, right? And as
Right.
we get older, as we age, we lose mitochondria and they begin to falter in terms of their optimal health. And so what we want to do is we want to increase our mitochondrial health and mitochondria, which MCT oil will do, by the way. And so that means exercise is really important. High intensity interval training will help increase the number of mitochondria and your health. Eating a really healthy, nutrient dense diet is going to do that. But what kills it, okay, what kills them is the inflammation. Okay, and that, as we alluded to earlier, goes to the diet, the your lifestyles. If you have a sedentary lifestyle, those are things that are very damaging to mitochondria.
So over the age of 40, we, a lot of us are still trying to look like we're 20. We still want to look good. But don't you think you have to almost change some of the ways you exercise? Like you were talking about HIIT training. How important is that for someone over 40 to
Oh,
participate in?
it's very important. Now, I don't necessarily say you have to do it. Moving your body is the most important thing, okay? However, now you can look at women over 40 and men who are just simply walking every day. I see people in my neighborhood, they've been walking for years. I walk my dog every day. And I see the same people off and on. They still aren't losing weight, okay? They're still walking. So research shows that you need to boost your metabolism more effectively when you're over 40, and you need to gain muscle mass, okay? You need to stop the muscle loss that occurs every single year. Every decade we lose like 3%, okay? And it starts really when we're 27, roughly around there. And that's why you see older people that are so frail. They just have no muscle tone. That muscle is key to losing weight, to keeping weight off, and to living a life that's a free life without a walker or a cane when you're older. So you can live a healthy, optimized life as an older person, but you have to start younger. You really have to boost that mitochondrial health, and you have to keep that muscle mass and do more muscle training as you get older, okay? And
Right.
certain forms of exercise. So
And
that's
it's so
Yeah.
key to be doing the weight training for
It,
your overall health and longevity. When we have people that come to me, like I have a studio, it's called the Chick Fit Studio, and when they come to me, they may come and say, "Oh, I've lost, all this weight. Will you measure? I'll measure my body fat." And maybe they were doing some kind of, I don't know, they're dieting and and I'm like thinking to myself, well, were you lifting? Because what happens is if only you diet and you don't lift and you lose weight,
great point.
you've lost muscle,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
scale doesn't tell you anything
Yeah.
about, body fat versus muscle.
Mhm.
So what would you tell people would be a good measurement, or what should they do to make sure they've kept muscle but lost body fat?
Well, I think I absolutely encourage people to do all over body strength training. I use, push-ups, pull-ups. I do use my own body as well as machine.
Yeah, body
And
weight.
yeah, and you can do that with HIIT, high intensity interval training, HIIT for short. And that is going to help you lose weight, research shows, even more powerfully. But when you combine the two, it's like the ultimate cocktail, the strength training and the high intensity interval training. So you're keeping your muscle, you're increasing lung power, cardio, better cardio health, more optimized, in fact, and more mitochondria. So we love those mitochondria when they're healthy. So
Well, it's
yeah,
also good to keep you from having Alzheimer's.
yeah, that's right. That's a very good point. And add protein to your diet. Adequate protein is going to help you build muscle mass as you age and keep it on.
Uh, uh, Absolutely. Now, what are some good protein sources that you would recommend?
Well, I recommend I'm, not a vegetarian, so I recommend, any animal source is fine. I find that it's difficult for vegetarians to get enough protein in, but you can do it if you're very conscious of it and you're not eating a junky diet. So you can get protein from most any source, really. Um, like we mentioned, if you're on the run, those bars we were talking about earlier is another one, another source. So I make sure to have a quarter of my plate is protein at every meal. So you can get it from pasture-raised eggs. Omega-3 eggs are a great source. Nuts and seeds are another source. Hemp is another great source if you're vegetarian. Again, fatty fish is excellent because it has those omega-3s we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And any type of meat is fine. Try to make sure it's not conventionally raised, but that it's grass-fed or pasture-raised.
What are some supplements that we could take that would help build our mitochondria and directly shrink the fat cells? Do you have any good suggestions?
Right. So one is it's called NAC, NAC, N-acetylcholine for short, cysteine, I mean for short. NAC is one. MCT oil is another. I consider it a supplement. And blueberry extract is one. I'm trying to think what's the
Now, if we're eating a lot of blueberries, is that going to be enough, or should we still take the blueberry extract?
I would say take the blueberry extract if you're trying to promote brain health and weight loss. As I mentioned, research shows that, blueberries, and they use extract in the research, helps with weight loss and belly fat as well. So, I believe in supplementation because it can really target specific areas. Now, turmeric is another one that's really excellent, not just, as I mentioned, for belly fat, but for mitochondrial health as well. So those are just a few examples.
I find it interesting, too, because turmeric and blueberries help with the brain. Like, blueberries are supposed to be great for your memory, and it's just kind of interesting, how the connection. Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I just thank you so much for coming on today. And
You are so welcome, and thank you. It's really an honor for me to be here, Linda. Thank
Thank
you.
you. It's just so great. Well, I know I tried to catch your episode on the doctors you were on recently. What was that like?
Oh, that was wonderful because we got to talk about something that I love, intermittent fasting. We didn't really get to talk about it here today, but essentially it's, a patterned eating. It's not a diet. It's about, skipping a meal, maybe a couple days of meals, but the most popular one is like 16-8, where you're fasting for 16 hours and then you have an eating window for 8 hours. So, but if we do another one of these, we can actually go over.
Well, yeah, I would love to. I had a challenge recently where we did intermittent fasting, and the results were astounding as far as, I had 100% success rate with people losing weight and
fantastic, yeah,
and having energy. So I would totally be game to have you on to talk about that again. And
thank you.
In your book, do you talk about the intermittent fasting at all, or?
No, I don't.
Okay.
In fact, the research it has been pouring out on the benefits of intermittent fasting. And in my book, I recommend breakfast, but there's still a group of people that really have to eat. Okay. And some people say, no, I'm not skipping a meal, and, but it's, I was the breakfast queen. Okay. So if I can skip a meal, if I can skip breakfast.
Right. Yeah. Well, what I found interesting about the whole intermittent fasting, or just fasting in general, was your metabolism doesn't drop. Like, how we think we're going to go in starvation mode.
Right.
The starvation mode only happens when, like, let's say I'm a woman and I'm on an 800 calorie a day diet.
Right.
When the starvation mode kicks in, if you do that all the time.
That's an excellent point. Yeah. If you're intermittent fasting and you're not getting enough calories, that's a prescription for disaster. I'm telling you, especially being a woman, because we're so finely tuned hormonally, and men can get away with it more, but not women. Yeah. It's definitely, don't do that.
Well, you guys, make sure you check out Laurie's book, FATflammation, and is it Fire Up Your Fat Burn? The other one, Fire Up. I like that.
Thank you. My first book is Fire Up Your Fat Burn, and my last book is How to Fight FATflammation.
And where can they find that?
You can find it anywhere books are sold, on Amazon. You can go to my website, and it's pretty much, it's with HarperCollins publisher, so it's pretty much anywhere books are sold.
Awesome. And where can everyone reach you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Laurie Shemek. I provide daily tips. Same with Instagram, Laurie Shemek, and if you follow me, I'll follow you back. And on Facebook, I'm Dr. Laurie Shemek. So, and again, lots of packed tips for you to create a healthy life.
Well, if you guys really enjoyed this episode, make sure you give us a quick 30-second review in iTunes so that we can have Laurie on the show again. And also make sure to get Laurie's book so you can learn how to fight FATflammation and fire up your fat burn.
That's right.
Thanks everyone for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat.
Bye everybody.
Bye everyone.